Hi everyone, it's Alyssa here, and today I wanted to bring you a video on the training process of how to become a Best Buy sales consultant. So number one, kind of an important thing, is to get hired. I can make an entire video on the hiring process of Best Buy. If you guys would enjoy that, please let me know in the comments if you did want to see that video. Number two would be you do start your online learnings pretty much as soon as you get hired. I started in computers and there were about I want to say like 60 something online trainings for computers. I got through about half of them, but because I had a friend, Dominic, in the department and he was the department lead for computers, I unfortunately wasn't allowed to stay in that department. So I ended up getting switched to connected devices or connected home. And so because I was already categorized when I applied and they hired me for computers, I had already started all of those. And they ended up swapping me, so all the ones for computers didn't really apply to connected home. If you guys aren't really familiar what connected home is, it's all like the wireless routers, modems. You do a lot of like the activity trackers, and you do assisted mobile too because you're a branch under mobile. It's usually a lot of the smaller Best Buy stores will sometimes have a connected home. It's not every single store. But I ended up getting switched to that, and then I had to do like 50 plus more online trainings that are just so tedious, and we're not gonna go back to those online trainings because that sucked. And then number three, after you got all of those done, you would start on the sales floor, usually with your team lead. So my team lead was in mobile, so it was a little trickier than some of the other departments that like computers had their team lead to coach them, where like mine wasn't 100% familiar with how everything worked in the connected devices aspect. She was pretty intelligent, but she was more knowledge-based and mobile. And for that, so you would go and you would shadow them for a little bit of time, and then basically they'd be like, hey, do you want to take this customer? And it's nerve-wracking at first, but you say yes, and they go up and they're like, hey, they're shadowing me, yada yada yada. You talk to the customer, let them know what's going on. Usually they're fine with it. And then after you're done with that customer, your team lead will take you aside and they'll give you a critique on what you did well, what you should work on, any sort of critique kind of thing like that. And number four, your team lead will then go through teaching you how to sell for Best Buy. So this doesn't always happen right away. At least in my case, it didn't. I had very short amount of in-store training before I was put on the floor by myself. But I know technically you're supposed to have like that one-on-one training with your lead before you're forced to be by yourself. And they do go through and teach you how to sell for Best Buy and how to use the customer recommendation worksheets that are super important to Best Buy, and to having your customers understand and remember what you talked about. Number five would be selling on your own. So you sell on your own. Sometimes you have a name tag, sometimes you don't, depending on if it had come in yet, but you don't get a blue shirt right away. A lot of people think that you just start and you get a blue shirt. No, you will go in with your business casual attire. Sometimes you'll have a name tag, sometimes you won't, which gets a little tricky because the people are like, why is this person talking to me? But you don't get your blue shirt basically until you earned it. For me, I ended up getting my blue shirt about 2 weeks into my training, actually 2 weeks into my working at Best Buy total, because I was put on the floor, I want to say about my third day on the floor. I was scheduled for a 9-hour shift by myself, not training. They don't really know how this happened. There were only 3 people in Connected Home. There was one full-time, one other part-timer, and I was training. And so basically they just kind of threw me in because somebody had called out. So I had to learn a lot on my own, and in my first like 9-hour shift by myself, I sold over $3,000. Which in my store was a lot at the time, especially for Connected Home, which usually Connected Home is not the easiest department to sell for. You kind of float around a lot of the store when needed if there's nobody in your department, just because you're kind of expected to be able to connect everything in the home. So like whether you do like home theater and do TVs or computers, or everything is supposed to be connected. So usually like there's routers in home theater, there's routers in computers, like it's your job to understand and connect everything back together. So you do kind of go around a lot. But because I did so well my first shift by myself, I think like the next day I did end up getting my blue shirt, which when you get your blue shirt, it's like kind of a big deal at Best Buy. At least in the store I worked at, it was. but I got it, but I didn't have a name tag right away. That's why I said it was a little iffy at first. My name tag came in after my shirt. I didn't have one for quite a while. There were like 3 or 4 people hired with me, and like all of our name tags came in at the same time, but because I was one of the first ones hired and I had more availability to train, and I was on the floor first because everybody else was still like getting hired and doing all their paperwork and everything, and I was already like done. It took me a little bit longer to get my name tag because when finally everything came in, they were about ready to get on the floor. And then number 6, depending on when they have them scheduled and when you're scheduled and when you start, you are required to go to a sales induction training. So usually they have either a sales induction that's a 1 week long like course you kind of go through on how to sell for Best Buy, or they do, I know a couple of my coworkers had the option of like 2 different weekends. I ended up having to go out of market, and I went to Framingham, Massachusetts, and I went to that store into their market. It was quite a drive for me, which kind of sucked, but the nice thing was, I'm not sure if this happened to everybody. I know people have commented in my other Best Buy video that I was lying and everything. I can 100% attest to not have lied to my sales induction, and they did put us in a hotel. It was a relatively nice hotel. It wasn't like a motel or anything. It was pretty nice for Sunday and a Monday, Monday and a Tuesday, Tuesday and a Wednesday, Wednesday and a Thursday, and Thursday and a Friday. So 5 nights, and we were expected to be there training Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It was about a 9 a.m. to a 4 p.m. shift. We did get out a little bit later on like Tuesday, Wednesday after all the introductions when we were actually learning the material, and then Friday was a half day and we were supposed to test out that day. So we ended up getting our test that we have to take. It's not a hard test. Some people did struggle with it, but a lot of it's common knowledge, and then if you paid attention to the entire week and you weren't goofing off, it's not a hard test to pass, but you have to pass it or you can't, like, you might have to get switched to like a different department, or like you won't be able to be on the sales floor until you pass it. Sometimes if you failed the test, a lot of times they would ask you verbal questions. They would re-ask you because some people test better like that. If not, you would have to go back and retake the test on a different sales induction time. So like you wouldn't have to repeat the entire class, but you would have to retest and make sure you pass the test. And I'm not sure how many times you could do that. So for my sales induction group, I actually ended up going with 2 other coworkers that were both in home theater for my store, and there were a total of 2 girls in a room of probably 40 people. So I'll let you do the math on that, but usually for Best Buy, for sales at least, a lot of people don't always take females too seriously in the technology field, which kind of sucks. And it's not always a specialty that people think that we are able to have, which I 100% disagree. In my time at Best Buy, I did very well in sales, and I thoroughly enjoyed the department I was in. I loved everybody I worked with, and I did pretty well. And for people to say that I don't know what I'm talking about, I could outsell half the guys in that store. So you just have to know how to sell to customers and how to articulate what you need to say for them to understand it, because a lot of times I'm able to connect something on a more personal level to the customer and maybe not talk their ear off about how this can do this, this can do that, and like they're standing there like, why does this matter to me? Which a lot of people can't necessarily do, which is why a lot of people don't necessarily purchase stuff with that person or at that store. And number 7, after sales induction, you go back to your store. Some people then get their blue shirts if they've earned it, but getting your blue shirt is basically how you earn your place in the store, kind of. It's basically proving that you can sell for Best Buy and like how they sell, and proving what you know what you're talking about. And number 8, they do continue training for your entire time at Best Buy. And your continuation of training is going to be a lot more of the online trainings. Those have certain deadlines that you have to do every single month. You have to do them before the deadline. If they time out, there's certain trainings you have to schedule at a certain time, which sometimes they were out of when you were scheduled, and that was really hard to schedule, and sometimes you couldn't really attend those, and your manager would have to like put an application to request another time for you. That was kind of weird and annoying. But then you would have a lot of like your managers, like my assistant store manager would come up and be like, okay, sell me Best Buy credit card, sell me Best Buy protection. And you would have to go through and you would have to know step by step on how to do it. And if you didn't do it, you wouldn't pass, and like you had to pass. And if you didn't pass, they would coach you, and then they would come back to it in a couple of days. Training continuing through your entire time at Best Buy. You would have monthly trainings with your entire staff, and they would go over like new promos that they were doing that month and all of this stuff. And you would also have like team meetings and stuff before the store opened, and there was a lot of additional training on top of that, which depends on your store, depends on your leads. They know they're supposed to do certain stuff they don't always get a chance to do. There's a lot. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned a little bit more on how the training goes to become a sales consultant at Best Buy. Please like and subscribe, and leave in the comment section down below if you guys have any other suggestions for any videos you would like me to make. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye everyone.